Alright, so here we are at Greenville Spartanburg International. Now, the bird right now is parked on the ramp, but when we get ready to do a flight, we're going to be starting at gate 4B. But this just to give you a good idea of what it looks like, textures and so on. Is this aircraft ready for prime time? That's one thing we're going to find out. Now, one thing I like to do with aircraft is I like to start out, if it's available, I'm going to use the provided checklist in Microsoft Flight Simulator. One, just to see if it works. Then I'll go to the manual or documentation provided with the aircraft and see if they've got a checklist. So if that doesn't work, well, then we'll go from there. But for today, this is the very first time I've flown the aircraft. I want to get inside, look around, see how it is, and then just do a little test flight, and we'll go from there. Now, the one thing that's interesting about this aircraft, it was designed originally by Airbus to be a replacement for the American C-130 Hercules. The aircraft has more powerful engines, it's got more cargo capacity. Another very interesting thing that's great to watch for me is, having seen some other videos about this aircraft, is that in the real world and in the simulation, the propellers counter-rotate. We got one set of propellers that runs counterclockwise, and we've got one set of engines that run clockwise. So you'll see that hopefully in the sim. So let's get inside the aircraft and let's get things started. Okay, well, here we are at Greenville Spartanburg International, Greenville, upstate South Carolina. And we are looking at the latest edition that I know of in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, developer Roland Library, and the Airbus A400M. So, we're going to take a look at it today. I'm going to go through some things, as I said, and just give it a first try. Now, first I'm going to try something I don't use a lot, FS Realistic, the walk around feature. Want to see if it works inside this particular sim, which it does work in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I want to see if it works in this module. I'll be all right. You just need more coffee. Okay, so it's been a while since I used this for the walk around, so yeah, I got to take a minute to figure out what I'm doing here. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get in the cockpit, because that's where I have to start it from to do my walk around. So here we are. Now let's go outside and see how the walk around feature works with the A400M. No power yet, and there it is. Well, doesn't this look just spiffy? So, in a word, not with this module. That's a shame. Sometimes it's fun just to walk around the aircraft and look at some of the features and how they've done some stuff. So, can't use FS Realistic, but there's probably, there's other ways to be able to do that. All right, so inside the cockpit now, just kind of looking around. Top panel, just about as far as I can tell, all the buttons pretty much work, or a great number of them. And I have read the documentation that came with it, so it's told me what some of these buttons are. But let's look up here. Here's where my battery switches are, and it's not in the off position, it's in the ESS section. All right. So let's start with looking at the checklist here. See if it works. The Microsoft Flight Simulator checklist. Okay, so we're going to start with the pre-flight inspection in the cockpit. All right, park and brake. Okay, so that does work. Very good. Now I've got the park and brake set up with my HOTAS, but let's see if it does what usually happens when I do this. So it's now off and on. Okay, so what happens is if I press the button on my HOTAS, it'll go to from the on position, and I'll turn it off, and it'll then go back and it leaves it off. So I always have to come down and move that with my mouse cursor. All right. So we know that it showed up, but what we're going to look at here, these are the feathering switches for the props. Okay, and I'm having problems. Okay, the fourth one, I'm going to have to move my position in the cockpit to be able to get to where I can turn it off from where I'm sitting in this view, but it won't let me turn it on. So we're going to go ahead and let's click on that. And some of these click spaces are very sensitive and hard, little difficult to get to work. So alternators, click on it, and it's showing me nothing. Okay, I'm not seeing anything there. So, and there's a lot of switches on this panel to try to read through and find. And then per se, there isn't a reading checklist that I could find in the documentation. But this is my first time in the aircraft. What I'm switching up now is the engine start switches. Now this aircraft, because I've watched a couple videos on it, you can actually start the engines just by hitting the start switch, and it'll automatically start all 4 engines for you. Me, I'm kind of old school. I like to start each engine individually. So that's kind of cool for me. All right, pitot heat. Where's the pitot heat switch to turn the pitos on? And again, the checklist is not showing me anything. Let's look a little close, not seeing anything. The inside of the cockpit doesn't look bad at all, and it's very functional from what I can see. All right, so we got external power. I went ahead and turned it on. Maybe that'll help with some of the stuff. Again, I don't know a lot about this aircraft yet, so this is what you're seeing is what I'm seeing for the first time on my sim. Master avionics switch. That should turn on my MFDs and within about 30 seconds of flipping the switch, because they do require a little warm up, but nothing for pitot heat. All right, the engine master, it doesn't show me that either. Yeah, But we've got the engine start switch right up there at the top. Okay, so just looking around, I'm not seeing anything that says engine master switch. And of course, it's not showing me with the checklist. So we're going to try and see how when I hit that switch, it takes a couple times, many times, quite often. If I don't hit that button exactly in the right place, it won't switch it on. So some of the click points are very sensitive. Just make a mental note of that. Okay, avionics master, it's telling me to turn it off. I don't know why. Well, this is the before starting engines. And let's see, we'll look at that heads-up display a little bit later. I understand it does work, but it's one that you have to be at the right eye level with it in order to see. You can't be off to the side or too high up or too high down or too low down for you to use it. You've got to be sitting in front of it. Okay, so let's do this. So the checklist really wasn't helpful. Okay. In a lot of ways, it showed a couple things. It wasn't helpful to me, so I just got rid of it. And now we'll just try to get things going as best I can from what I've seen in the accompanying documentation. There are some clues there, plus from a couple other videos I watched. Okay, so we've got external power. All right. So we gotta get things set up for fuel to the aircraft. Like I said, I'm learning as we go here. APU gen won't turn on even though we've got APU power. Okay. And the one thing with some of these switches is they're switches that rotate for like lighting changes and so on, and then there's switches that you just click on. The problem is it can get a little bit confusing because switches you would expect to scroll don't always scroll. Sometimes you just click on them and they turn on. So, okay, let's look at some lighting here, because we should have already had beacons on. And then some of these work, some of them don't. Those that do, some of them click up like you would expect, and others, you click on them and they very slowly move into position. Like that one. Okay? You would think that you just flip that with your finger, like in the real world. If it's a switch like that, it flips right up. Okay, so no, that's turning the feed off. All right, let's get the fuel cross feeds on. They need to be on. Turn that one off. Okay, that turns the generator off. Okay. Okay, now the APU gen comes on, so there was something I was doing wrong. And now the APU bleed air isn't coming on. Or maybe it is on. It's another thing. Sometimes it's hard to tell if these switches are on or off. That one's now off. Okay, so this is a learning experience. It's a good-looking aircraft, good-looking cockpit to me, anyway. You know, and this is all my opinion. And it's getting the flaps into the number 3 position, where that seems to be the most important position for this aircraft. If it's not in 3, then it gives you a warning. So, and I can look and see what needs to be turned on, because those are severe warnings. So let's go ahead and I'm going to start engine 1. Yes, I'm going to start engine 1. Please start. Hit the button. There we go. It's coming on now. All right. And you see that it rotates in a counterclockwise direction. Okay. So, once we start engine 2, it should rotate in a clockwise direction. We'll wait for it to settle down. Alright, engine 2 starting, and as you can see, it rotates in a clockwise direction. And once again, we wait for it to settle down. And listening to the engines, they sound like pretty much default sounds. You know, nothing special about them, but they do sound like a prop engine. Okay, so with that, we're going to start engine 4. And 4 rotates in a clockwise direction. So I'm guessing that engine 3, when we start it up, will be counterclockwise. That's interesting. So it looks like engines 1 and 3 will be counterclockwise, and 2 and 4 are clockwise. Doing that should lead to a smooth flight, though, because you're not going to have the torque problems that you do like in other aircraft. Yep, sure enough. All right. So we've got 4 good engines running. Everything is looking okay so far. So while the engines warm up, let's see what needs to be done next. Check the HUD. Okay, and you see it works. It looks pretty good. But you better be sitting directly in front, because if you move left or right or up or down, it'll disappear. Alright, so everything looks good there. Engines are running. Turn the APU off. Okay. This is on my anti-ice stuff, and it doesn't appear to be. Of course, there's probably a master switch that I haven't found yet. Got to look more in depth, do some more research. Got to learn some more about this airplane. That's all there is to it. So let's close the safety covers on our engine switches. And once again, there's always one that gives me problems. Because some of the switches are just a little bit difficult. So we turned off the fuel mode. Let's take a look at the warning panel. And the warning panel tells me turn them on. So we'll turn them back on. Come on. There you go. All right, so that's good. Alright, so we should be just about ready for pushback. Let's you see how slow the switches move? I should be able to just flick those up like normal panel switches, but some do that, some don't. Let's get all our lighting on that needs to be on and is workable. Come on. There you go. And that one doesn't appear to be working. That one works. That's our beacon for both upper and lower. Now I'm just going to be doing basically a takeoff, maybe a touch and go, or if not, just takeoff and landing back here at KGSP. So won't be making any flight plans this time, but the FMS does work in this aircraft, or at least there's instructions on how to use it. Kinda, sorta, maybe. So all right, so let's push back. We can get ready to taxi. We'll be taking off from runway and landing on runway 4. And that's what they're using today. Beautiful sunny day at Greenville Spartanburg. Unfortunately, it's quite windy. We've had some storms blow through here, and we got some more coming in. But that being said, it's a beautiful sunny day today. Okay, we are about ready. Let's pull up here a little bit, put the parking brake on. There we go. Okay, and that is our system pitot heat. And I could not find that switch to save myself. So, if anybody watching this video happens to know where it is on this airplane, I've, reached out, tried to get some help. I haven't heard any information back yet, but we're hoping somebody will tell me where it's at. And it may be an automatic function that happens once I get in the air. I don't know. I don't think so. Anyway, let's go ahead and move up a little bit, and then we can call for clearance to taxi. I think we're just about ready for that.
Rear ground Airbus uniform 19er29er with whiskey request taxi for takeoff, touch and go.
Airbus uniform 19er29er taxi to and hold short of runway. We're using taxiway Lima Tree Lima Alpha. Contact tower on 120.1 when ready.
Taxi to and hold short runway. We're using taxiway Lima Tree Lima Alpha Airbus 9er29er.
Okay, we're ready to go then. Let us get ready to move here. Flaps are already in takeoff configurations. Let's speed things up and get down to the end of the runway.
Runway, we're ready for departure, touch and go.
Airbus uniform 19er29er altimeter 30.011257 at Niner. Left touch and go approved. Cleared for takeoff runway 4.
Cleared for takeoff runway for Airbus 9er29er.
Okay, so very good. I really like the livery that we're using today. It's a commemorative livery for the anniversary of D-Day. So, which I think is just very cool. It's one of, I believe, 15 different liveries you can choose from. So, anyway, we're going to get going here. Okay, let's pull the gear up. And that sounds horrible. That's interesting. I don't know if that's realistic or not, but it sure doesn't sound like any landing gear I've ever heard come up.
Airbus Niner to Niner, wind 257 at Niner. Clear touch and go left traffic runway 4.
Okay, that's the flaps coming up.
Airbus Niner to Niner, did you copy?
Oh yeah, let me answer you.
Cleared touch and go runway for Airbus Niner 29er.
Okay, and we're going to speed up to get around to our landing. Just a quick circuit around the airport. I'm not going to do the touch and go. We're just going to land. At which point, the sim is going to yell at me that I didn't have clearance to land. But it's my sim, so I don't care. But the aircraft flies almost like a fighter, which is a little bit troublesome because, you know, the C-130, like this one, 4-engine prop
Clear
plane,
tower Airbus Niner 29er, cancel landing in 10.
and they're not fighters. They handle like bigger aircraft. You just can't whip them around the sky. And this one seems that you can. So, you know, it's fun, but there's work to be done. Needs some work on the flight dynamics, needs some work on the sounds, and of course there's always room for improvement on the looks of things, but you know.
Airbus Niner to Niner, you are not clear to land.
Vertical speed 233, side slip 180.0.
Okay, let's try the reversers. There they go.
Airbus Niner to Niner, you are not clear to land. Clear the runway.
Okay. Okay.
Airbus Niner to Niner, contact ground on 121.9er.
121.9er for Airbus Niner 29er.
So everything went well with the landing. Not bad at all. Handling of the aircraft is okay. Like I said, I had fun with it. So. Is it ready for prime time? Well, that's pretty much up to each individual, what they're looking for in a flight sim. I like my aircraft to give me the options of flying what I consider high fidelity, which is much closer to the realistic But if I want to just jump in and fly it, I'd like that option too. So I think you've got that with this aircraft. The high fidelity part, not so much. But it's got working systems, it's fun to fly, and like this has worked real well. It is what it is. It's a simulation aircraft. It's fun to fly. Plain and simple. So let's see about shutting it down. Park and brake set. Okay. Whoops. Okay, we've got them all in beta. See if we can get them out of beta. Nope, come on. All right. These click points are very sensitive, though, I will say that. Okay. Flaps up. Let's move our spoilers completely down. There, spoilers are stowed. So we're going to turn everything off. Fuel, lights, the whole 9 yards, and we'll see what happens there. I haven't found anything in the documentation saying how the proper way to shut down engines. So right now the throttles are all the way back. So we turned off all the fuel, we've turned off the batteries, we've turned off all electrical power, yet it's still showing as operational. And it will not shut the engines down. So the engines are still running, and I can't turn them off. So with that, we'll call this one done. But it was a fun flight. You tell me what you think. Well, all right then. There you see it. We had a good little flight. Good landing. Everything. The aircraft is, to be honest, is great fun to fly. I really enjoyed it. It needs a lot of growth. It really does. But I like a lot of the systems that are in it, the way they're set up, the way they work. You can fly this aircraft. You can actually start up the engines and so on. And I know I'm rehashing some things, but you can do it the way I like to do it, an individual engine at a time. Then you can also flip the switch and it'll automatically start all 4 engines for you. This aircraft is highly automated, so that minimal crew can operate it and fly it safely. I had a lot of fun with it. It needs a lot of work, though. It really does, to be honest. Some of the switches that are supposed to be knobs actually work like clicking on and off switches. Some switches are very hard to use, especially if you're using a mouse to do it. But as this is a fun fun aircraft for me to fly. And nobody has supplied me with the C-130, which is one of my, favorite aircraft because of my military career and the number of hours I spent flying in them and jumping out of them. So, it is what it is. It's just going to need some updates, and I think it'll be a wonderful addition to anybody's hangar, because you have the ability to make this thing as simple or right now, and it is simple right now, but the average person can go fly it and have fun. For those people that are more purist and use systems, you have that possibility too. Documentation needs to be updated. The documentation does not come, or I couldn't find it, with an actual checklist, which would be a great help for people like me that like to fly simulators that way. But it just hit the sim, so let's give it a little love. I mean, the developers, they've done a good job, but it's got a lot of issues, as we talked about earlier. So anyway, I hope you had fun with this. I enjoyed flying it. I guess you figured that out by now. But it's in early. This is the first rendering of it. Let's hope there's updates and they keep showing it the love that it deserves. So until that next time, this is Bug Eater 64. I hope you enjoyed your ride along with me. And until next time, as always, safe flying.